Have you ever noticed something strange about your life? Certain things are hurting you, but you stay anyway. A job is draining you, but you wake up every morning and go back. A relationship is slowly breaking you, but the idea of leaving feels terrifying. A habit is destroying your future, but quitting feels worse than continuing. And the scariest part, you don't stay because it feels good. You stay because it feels safe, not happy, not fulfilling, just familiar. This is not a coincidence. And it's not a personal failure. It's your brain, because your brain has learned to confuse familiar pain with safety. And once you see this clearly, you'll never look at your choices the same way again. Let's start with a hard truth most people never hear. Your brain does not care if you're happy. Read that again. Your brain does not care if you feel fulfilled, confident, successful, or alive. Your brain has one primary job: keep you alive. That's it. Not thriving, not growing, not becoming your best self, just surviving. And for most of human history, survival depended on one thing above all else: predictability. If something was familiar, it was less likely to kill you. If something was unknown, it was dangerous. So your brain learned a simple rule: what I know is safer than what I don't. This rule saved lives for thousands of years, but today, that same rule is quietly destroying lives. Your brain would rather choose guaranteed pain than uncertain relief. Why? Because pain you've already experienced is predictable. You know how bad it gets. You know how to cope. You know how to survive it. But change is unknown. And unknown to your brain equals danger. So when you think about leaving a toxic job, your brain doesn't ask, will this make us happier? It asks, what if we fail? What if we regret it? What if things get worse? What if we lose control? And suddenly, staying feels safer than leaving. Not because it is safer, but because it's familiar. This is how people get stuck. Not in comfort, but in cages made of routine. Every day, you stay in familiar pain. You're making an unconscious trade. You trade long term peace for short term certainty, growth for predictability, freedom for familiarity. And your brain applauds you for it, because from its perspective, you just avoided a threat. You didn't quit. You didn't speak up. You didn't risk rejection. You didn't step into the unknown. So your brain releases a subtle signal: good, we survived another day. But survival is not living. And deep down, you feel that quiet numbness, that low grade dissatisfaction, that sense that something is off. That's the cost of confusing pain with safety. No one is born fearing change. Babies reach for the unfamiliar. Children explore without overthinking. So, where does this fear come from? It comes from conditioning. At some point, your brain learned trying led to embarrassment, speaking up led to punishment, trusting led to pain, failing led to shame. And your brain did exactly what it's designed to do. It adapted, it created a rule: stay where damage is predictable. And that rule worked. At first, it protected you when you were younger, it helped you survive emotional chaos. But here's the problem: your brain never updated the rule. So now, as an adult, it's still running survival code, written during moments of fear. And those old rules are now sabotaging your future. We call it the comfort zone. But let's be honest, most comfort zones aren't comfortable at all. They're just familiar suffering. The comfort zone is a job you hate but understand, a relationship that hurts but is predictable, a routine that numbs you but feels stable. Real comfort would feel peaceful. But what most people experience is emotional stagnation. And your brain mistakes that stagnation for safety, because nothing new is happening. Nothing unpredictable, nothing threatening, just the same pain again and again. Here's something most people don't realize: change doesn't just threaten your routine, it threatens your identity. If you leave the job, who are you without the title? If you leave the relationship, who are you alone? If you quit the habit, who are you without the escape? Your brain is deeply attached to identity because identity provides continuity, and continuity equals safety. So when you think about changing your life, your brain hears, we are about to become someone unfamiliar. And unfamiliar means unsafe. This is why logic doesn't work. You can list all the reasons you should leave. You can know intellectually that change is good. But your nervous system is not listening to logic. It's listening to threat. This fear rarely feels dramatic. It doesn't scream, it whispers. It sounds like, maybe later. It's not that bad. Others have it worse. Now isn't the right time. And that whisper keeps you exactly where you are, year after year, until one day you wake up and realize you didn't choose this life. You settled into it, not because it was right, but because it was familiar. Here's the turning point: the moment that separates people who stay stuck from people who break free. It's not motivation, it's not discipline, it's not confidence, it's awareness. The moment you realize this fear is not a warning, it's a memory. It's your brain replaying old survival patterns. And once you see that, you stop obeying every uncomfortable feeling. You stop assuming fear means stop. You stop confusing pain with safety. You begin to question the instinct that once controlled you. And that's when the real work begins. You're not stuck because you're weak. You're stuck because your brain learned to survive. Now, in part two, we're going inside the brain itself. Because once you understand how your brain creates this trap, you'll stop blaming yourself and start taking back control. Your brain is not one single system, it's a layered structure built over millions of years. At the bottom is the survival brain. This part evolved first. Its job is simple: detect danger, avoid pain, keep you alive. Above that sits the thinking brain: logic, reasoning, planning, imagination. Here's the problem: when the survival brain senses threat, it overrides the thinking brain. Logic shuts down, reason disappears, emotion takes control. So when you think you're making a rational choice to stay in a painful situation, most of the time you're not. Your survival brain is making the decision for you. To your survival brain, change feels like danger, not because change is bad, but because it's unpredictable. Thousands of years ago, unpredictability meant death. A new sound in the bushes, an unfamiliar path, a strange face. So your brain learned, if I don't recognize it, it might kill me. That ancient logic still runs today. Except now, the danger looks like quitting a job, ending a relationship, speaking your truth, starting over, being seen. Your brain doesn't distinguish between a lion and emotional uncertainty. It just reacts. Meet the amygdala. This small, almond shaped structure is your brain's fear center. Its job is not to think, its job is to react fast. When the amygdala detects uncertainty, it sends a signal: threat detected. Your body responds instantly, heart rate increases, muscles tense, breathing becomes shallow, anxiety appears. And here's the key part: the amygdala reacts before logic. By the time you try to think it through, your body has already decided, stay where it's familiar. Now here's where it gets dangerous. When you stay in a painful but familiar situation, your amygdala stays quiet. No alarms, no uncertainty, no unknowns. So your nervous system relaxes slightly. and your brain interprets that calm as safety, even if the situation is slowly destroying you. This is why toxic relationships feel hard to leave, miserable jobs feel safer than new ones, bad habits feel comforting. The pain is known, and known pain is manageable. Unknown freedom is not. Let's talk about dopamine. Most people think dopamine is the pleasure chemical. It's not. Dopamine is the familiarity and prediction chemical. Your brain releases dopamine when it knows what's coming next. A pattern repeats, an expectation is met. That's why even bad habits feel comforting. Your brain predicts the outcome, and prediction feels safe. So every time you repeat a familiar, painful pattern, your brain quietly rewards you. Not because it's good, but because it's predictable. People say, just be strong, just push through, just change. But willpower lives in the thinking brain, and survival responses live deeper. So when fear is activated, willpower collapses, motivation disappears, you procrastinate, you freeze. This is not laziness, this is biology. Your nervous system is choosing survival over growth. Most people know fight flight. But there's a third response freeze. Freeze looks like overthinking indecision, waiting for the right time, feeling stuck. Freeze happens when you want change, but fear feels overwhelming, so your system chooses to do nothing. This is how years disappear, not in chaos, but in quiet paralysis. You can watch motivational videos, read books, understand everything intellectually, and still not change. Because insight does not rewire fear. Your brain does not update through understanding, it updates through experience, specifically small, safe experiences of discomfort that don't lead to disaster. That's how the brain learns. Maybe this isn't a threat. Here's a truth that hurts one but frees you. The fear you feel is not about the future, it's about the past. Your brain is reacting to old experiences, old wounds,